has being around so much old money, so much wealth, has that kind of shaped your worldview at all? Like, has that changed how you look at things? What have you observed?
I think it has poisoned me very, very deeply.
Okay.
Because I grew up around so much money, and I'm now like pretty much a poor person,
Yeah.
which is hard to accept. You
I
know,
understand, yeah.
when you went to like private school, and they're like, this was the environment I grew up in.
Okay.
Lawyers and doctors are fucking losers because they top out at $400K a year. They're gonna have a vacation home on a lake?
Yeah.
Gross. What? You're gonna live in Wilton and then you're gonna drive to New Hampshire to have a house on Lake Winnipesaukee? What are you, middle class? Like, that was the attitude I grew up around.
I got it.
So it's like I view everything purely on like success that I have not achieved in life, which is very odd.
I understand.
You know?
I understand kind of in a way. Like, my dad was a doctor and I'm doing this now, and it's not so my dad was a failure in the eyes of Connecticut.
Listen, if it makes you feel better, my father was a poor guy from North Jersey.
Yes. Okay.
That was essentially a con man doing like bullshit art forgeries and art deals.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sad Money is back. This is Stephan, one half of Sad Money. I'm here with a very good friend of mine that I actually met at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh this past year, Chris Warren. Chris.
Hey everybody, what's up?
Thank you for being on the podcast. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself to get acquainted?
Oh yeah, I'm a stand-up comedian. We met over at a Fringe Festival. I'm from New England, so
Yes.
Best part of the country. I'm convinced that Fairfield County, Connecticut is the lost Garden of Eden. People try to get me to live in New York, people try to get me to live in LA. There's nowhere better than Fairfield County.
Maybe let's start with that. What makes you like Fairfield County? Shout out Fairfield County.
Because I think Fairfield County is a representation of America at its highest level.
Okay.
With all the worst aspects and the best aspects at the same time.
Okay.
So Fairfield County, for those that don't know, I don't think it is anymore, but it used to at one point be like the richest place in the world.
Okay.
Especially in America. And it's basically the lower like panhandle of Connecticut of all the people that commute to New York City, all the Wall Street guys, finance guys, anyone like that. Big-time lawyers in New York used to live out there.
Oh.
And it's got the 4 big towns. Anywhere else in Fairfield County doesn't count. You got Greenwich, Connecticut, which is number 1.
Yes.
Then a little bit below that, you got New Canaan, you got Darien, and you got Westport. Anywhere else is like you might as well live in Hartford.
Okay.
But it's super wealthy. Everything is super nice and super well maintained. It is the epitome of like the 1%. Like, you drive around and all the cars are nice and brand new. I see like 5 G-Wagons a day. And it's not trash. This is all old money. This is really waspy. This is like old school Jewish money, like that kind of money.
We like that.
Yeah, they don't let new money move in. Like, new money tries to move in every once in a while, and they make up a zoning ordinance to not let them live there. They will not allow it to happen.
So no like crypto bros, you don't see any of that really?
Well, no, because there's like those are Nepo babies, all the crypto bros.
Okay.
That's like the sons of the head of BlackRock that lives in Greenwich.
Okay.
His sons then do crypto. They're allowed. They're like grandfathered in.
I understand.
But like, this is a place where you pay $100,000 a year to be part of the Greenwich Country Club. You don't play golf. You don't play tennis. You just go there once a week to have a very mediocre lunch just to show everyone you're there. Fairfield County is wonderful. I love it. They also have zoned it so that they isolate poor people, which I know is messed up, but in terms of I live in the poor part, so don't, get mad at me.
Okay.
Like, they zoned it so like they have places where the help can live, but it's far enough away with like woods in between that you don't have to ever see them.
I see.
So like you have Norwalk, Connecticut, which is kind of like lower income, and there's like a solid mile of woods between Norwalk and the rich town Westport where they get all their help to come in from.
Okay.
Also, fun fact, Westport only exists because through like the 60s, there was a thing on the Charter of Greenwich, which is like, that's the rich town you really want to live in.
Yes.
There was a thing in their charter that you couldn't sell property to Jews. It was like in their constitution or whatever of the town. It's like, you cannot sell your home to a Jew if you're leaving. Like, we will enforce this. And so you had this wave of Jews that made all this money in New York that wanted to move to the suburbs, wanted to live in Connecticut. Yeah. They couldn't live in Greenwich or New Canaan or Darien because they all had on the charter they wouldn't sell their homes to Jews. Okay. So they bought all this old farm town. They bought all the land and made their own rich Jewish town that exists today called Westport. And that's why Westport is like 90% Jewish.
That's so interesting.
Like if you know Chabad centers, like it's like basically
Yeah.
Jewish community centers.
Yeah, all over the world.
Westport has, it looks like a palatial estate, their Chabad center.
Okay.
I've been there a couple times. It is like 4 stories.
Okay.
It's got like a garden. It's got like a mile-long driveway, and it's like, yeah, that is like Jews made their own town, pretty much.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Like, has being around so much old money, so much wealth, has that kind of shaped your worldview at all? Like, has that changed how you look at things? What have you observed?
I think it has poisoned me very, very deeply.
Okay.
Because I grew up around so much money, and I'm now like pretty much a poor person,
Yeah.
which is hard to accept. You
I
know,
understand, yeah.
when you went to like private school and they're like, you can't, like, this was the environment I grew up in.
Okay.
Lawyers and doctors are fucking losers because they top out at $400K a year. They're what? They're gonna have a vacation home on a lake?
Yeah.
Gross. What? You're gonna live in Wilton and then you're gonna drive to New Hampshire to have a house on Lake Winnipesaukee? What are you, middle class? Like, that was the attitude I grew up around.
I got it.
So it's like I view everything purely on like success that I have not achieved in life, which is very odd.
I understand.
You know?
I understand kind of in a way. Like, my dad was a doctor and I'm doing this now, and it's not so my dad was a failure in the eyes of Connecticut.
Listen, if it makes you feel better, my father was a poor guy from North Jersey.
Yes. Okay.
That was essentially a con man doing
Okay.
like bullshit art forgeries and art deals.
Okay.
And so he made a lot of money doing that. Again, not through skill or talent, all through conning people. He was very charismatic.
That's a skill.
It is a skill.
It's a big skill.
So he conned all these people in Fairfield County.
Okay.
So there was a brief part in my early childhood,
Yeah.
probably up until like 5th or 6th grade. That's when we lost all our money. But like the first 6 years of my life, I lived in that like lifestyle of
Yeah.
Fairfield County. Like, we lived in Greenwich. It was great.
Yeah.
And he had like a thick New Jersey accent. He was
Okay.
this really white trash guy deep down. So he was constantly doing things of what a poor person thought a rich person would do.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's like a stupid person That's like, no, let's not say that. Let's say that's like a man writing a woman's voice in a movie.
Exactly.
Like
yes.
that.
So he's like, what would a rich person do? And then so he made me do competitive horseback riding.
Yes.
For 3 years, because he was convinced that, well,
Yeah.
rich people, this was legit what he told me as like a 5th grader when he
Okay.
told me this. It wasn't up to me. I was told I was doing this.
Okay.
He was like, well, Chris, one of these days, he sounded like a Sopranos character. It was ridiculous. One of these days, you're going to be at like a business meeting at your hedge fund, because
Yeah.
that's, of course, where I was supposed to work. Going to be at a hedge fund meeting, and like the boss is going to be like, yo, this weekend we're
Yeah.
going horseback riding. And everyone's going to be like, I don't know how to do that. And you can
Yeah.
be like, I know how to horseback ride, get the one-on-one FaceTime. That's how you're going to become CFO. And that was legit. Like, there was no irony. There was no self-awareness.
Yeah.
He was convinced that me knowing how to ride competitive English-style horseback riding would be the difference between me being, middle management and exec suite.
That's actually, I mean, I respect him like thinking about your future. That's really funny though.
Yeah.
That's like
Meanwhile, just teach me how to golf.
Golf
I
is
don't
the
know how to golf.
way.
That would have helped me out. I've been
Damn.
invited to golf so
I
many
was gonna
times.
ask that. Yeah, damn. Do you ever ride anymore for horses?
No, I really did not enjoy it. I really did not. I was, not to brag, I was pretty good. I placed a couple times.
Oh, sick. Okay.
But it's honestly just fucking scary.
Yeah.
I was like, how old are you in like 6th grade? Like, you're what, like 11, 12?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
So I was like an 11-year-old. And like, when you're doing competitive, you're not on a size appropriate horse.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
on the biggest fucking horse they can have, because
Okay.
you're so light, it makes the performance better.
Got it.
And so, like, I wasn't coordinated enough to do dressage, like the horse dancing.
that, yeah,
I
yeah.
tried a bunch of times. My coach was like, I'm not going to coach you on this. Like,
Okay.
you're not coordinated.
Okay.
Which, harsh to say to an 11-year-old. So I had to do jumps.
Is that harder?
It's not harder. It's fucking terrifying. So they put
yeah.
like a beam on, those 2 white beams and then the middle beam.
Yes.
And they'll put it up to like what I was doing, because I wasn't really that good, because it goes much higher, but I think it was like 5 feet.
Okay.
And so I'm on a massive horse. Like, they weren't,
Okay.
but they look like those Budweiser Clydesdales.
Okay.
As like an 11-year-old, just galloping as fast as possible, like 35, 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And jumping up 5 feet in the air. And it's cool, But it's like, this isn't my passion. This isn't what I wanted to do. I'm just scared I'm going to get hurt all the time. Because I've seen like 5 dudes just break all their ribs coming down bad off a jump.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Dang.
I've not really ridden a horse. Actually, that's not true. I worked on a horse farm very briefly in Wales.
Okay.
And I rode horses there to work on the farm.
Okay. But no stock tips.
What?
No stock tips from that. You didn't get any stock tips.
No stock tips from that. No.
That's the golf course. Okay. What about, can I ask about your dad? Like how did the story end with your dad? Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
my mom hates when I talk about this, but I just won't tell her this is out there.
Okay.
So my dad basically was at one, and I don't know the full details because I don't really talk to my dad. And my mom very much doesn't, she'll cry if I bring it up.
Okay.
So I don't talk, but so I don't know. I want to be clear. I don't know exactly what happened, but there was something funky. He was doing an art/interior design business.
Okay.
And there was some funky stuff where he was using client money for stuff he wasn't supposed to, and trying to take the down payment, invest it in something instead of buying the thing the down payment was given for, like the art or whatever.
Okay.
And he was doing some form of advanced kite checking where you keep pushing it off different bank accounts.
Okay.
Anyway, way above my pay grade. He was very smart in that way. He was like a financial wizard. But basically he was just lying about where money was and moving it around in different ways to the point that it somehow was illegal. He got caught for it, and one day the police just showed up.
Okay.
And arrested him. And, that was kind of the end of that. And then we lost all our money, and we had to move to Southbury. Gross.
Fuck.
Not even in Fairfield County. It's like a farm town.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Dang. I'm sorry, man.
It was rough, dude.
Yeah. We can cut this part if you want.
I don't care.
Okay, all right. But, yeah, that's tough.
It's making me really relatable to the audience that I'm crying about having to move to an upper middle class town. That was my huge tragedy in life.
I mean, you were a kid. You had to go through a lot with, that's hard, man.
Yeah,
that's
their
tough.
parents didn't even have Range Rovers. They drove Toyotas.
Man. So, what I love is, maybe you could describe your social media, because I love your social media and your posts. You like to talk a lot about defense, somewhat geopolitics, but how would you describe the things that you like to talk about?
So, I mean, I guess I don't know how to define. I thank you, by the way. I appreciate that.
Great.
I just talk about things I find interesting, and a lot of that, people will always ask me for my take on politics in America.
Okay.
And I don't have any idea what's going on in America because it doesn't really interest me. People will be like, do you know what happened with the Senate passing this thing or this executive order? And I'm like, I didn't even know that was something that could happen.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I only care about what's going on in foreign countries because it's cool. It's like a storybook. It doesn't really affect me, so I don't have to feel emotional towards it.
Yes.
I can look at what's going on in the Congo, accept that that's horrible, but it doesn't actually affect my life. So it's not I think when people focus too much on American politics, where either it does affect their life or they think it affects their life, it gives them on both sides. I'm not hating on either side of the political spectrum. It gives them a mental illness almost.
Yes.
They turn everything into an argument. Yes. Everything's upsetting. They're always something they act as if someone has a gun to the head of their family at any given time, and if they don't convince you to believe what they believe, then that trigger's going to go off.
I understand.
It's too much. So I like to talk a lot about these geopolitics stuff, and then I realized this was way back in the day. I realized, because this was just what I was naturally into, that it was there's gotta be a way to make money off of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's telling me to do stocks. I've never been interested in stocks, but it's I really understand, what jet's being used where and why and who manufactures it and what the price range on that is. So it's I don't think anyone's really investing in this. And so I started doing it a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just kind of became my side hustle.
Dang,
and so I share my tips, and people tell me I'm stupid. They tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm always right. If you've been investing with me, you've been up 60% in the last year.
Stevie Cohen, you know who to call. Chris Warren, he's here.
I could help you, dude.
Call him up. You own the Mets, but they're in a little bit of trouble. Chris could help you get the treasury up, the payroll up.
Listen, here's how we get the Mets up.
How do we get the Mets up?
We go over to these countries where conflicts are happening.
Okay.
We get those guys that grew up from the age of 12 as a child soldier that are just jacked and have seen their family burned alive in front of them. and we bring them over here.
Yes.
And we're listen, Ubegwe, all you got to do is hit that ball.
That's all you got to do.
All you got to do is hit that ball. And they're really? I don't have to ethnically cleanse a village? And they're no, just hit the ball. guarantee that kid's going to be the star athlete.
They don't even have to do it that much.
They don't even do that much. It's like, yeah, like 3 times a game, you got to hit the ball. And he's like, okay. And you're going to pay me how much? You know, like dude, he will be out there knocking them into the sky.
You're going to have the Mets flying to Uganda and around the world now. That's great.
Yeah, dude, I think it'd be good. And it works for everyone. It gets those guys out of that horrible situation.
Yeah, you're right.
A new life in them. They probably make some money. They can send some back home, start a charity or something, help other child soldiers out.
Yes.
It's a win all around.
You're right. Dang.
And you could, like, you know, in hockey you have enforcers?
Yes.
Bring that to baseball.
They could be the enforcers.
Have a guy that, like, you need an enforcer, he just immediately charges the mound.
Ubegwe.
And Ubegwe just charges the mound and fucking puts the pitcher in a headlock, takes him out of the game. I think that'd be good.
That's funny. So then so we don't offer financial advice on our show. That's a huge disclaimer because we don't want to get sued by anyone, but we can talk about the generalities of it.
Yeah.
Like your investment strategy sounds really interesting. So like, what is your investment strategy?
So generally, and it ebbs and flows, right? Because it's not something you can constantly do. And I'm by no means an expert. I have been wrong before, but I've generally been right. You look at where a conflict is brewing. Okay. So anytime before the because usually the news will only focus on conflicts that are happening right now, that have already started, that have direct American involvement. And by that point, it's too late to invest.
Okay.
So you want to focus on stuff that's coming up. You want to go to like the 3rd page of Google News when you type in war.
Okay.
That's honestly why it's that simple. And then you just look at what's going on.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out really only a couple factors. Yeah. Okay, so you got to determine this war is almost guaranteed to happen.
Okay.
Then you got to invest now because it's probably going to happen in like a month or so. That's the ideal window.
Right.
Figure out what side has more money. It's usually the despotic regime.
Okay.
It's usually the dictator in charge has the most money.
Okay.
What are his allies? All right. So like for instance with Assad in Syria.
Yes.
Right. He had the most money. He was the pony to back financially at least if you're trying to make money. Who are his allies? Russia.
Yeah.
So you want to look at Russian defense contractors.
Yeah.
Figure out, and I usually don't invest in Russia because there's so much fuckery. With all the oligarchs and kind of like, corruption.
Yes.
So I would never, this is a hypothetical, I would never actually tell you to invest in any Russian anything.
Okay.
Not out of morality, just because it's like
it's hard to do.
It's likable for the CEO to go missing, and then your stock crashes overnight through no fault of your own, and I just don't want to play that game.
Yeah.
But then you find out, okay, he's cool with Russia. What does he need? Okay, he needs air superiority because the rebels don't have that. So that's what he's going to really want to hark on what he's doing best.
Okay.
Okay, so what Russian air manufacturer makes the kind of plane he needs? I'm going to take a gamble, invest a couple grand in that, and then what do you know? It happens.
And it works out.
Like the most recent thing.
Yeah, what's a good example?
A good real example, because that was kind of a bad hypothetical. A good real example is recently I saw that a lot of Europe was looking to rearm themselves, right? So specifically Denmark talked about like doubling their military budget and pulling away from the U.S. Germany talked about rearming. Poland talked about rearming. Hungary talked about rearming. This all happened in the last couple months.
Yeah.
And so because they don't want to be reliant on the U.S., they're going to want to buy European or Asian, but kind of like a lot of Asian manufacturers have some fuckery going with them and it's too far away. So you really want to go with European at that point. So the thing they're going to want to replace is their F-35 fleets. Pretty much every free Western nation on Earth has secured their independence or, the continuation of their independence with air superiority. And almost all of that is some variant of the F-35, which is an American airplane that's made by Lockheed Martin. Pratt & Whitney and a couple other countries make components, but it's mainly a Lockheed Martin thing. And it is like the Rolls-Royce of aircraft. People will disagree with me on that, but if you want a general all-around fighter, it is the best. If you could only buy one plane, that's the plane you want to buy.
F-35.
F-35. So all these countries have fleets of like anywhere from 20 to 200 F-35s.
Okay.
The problem with that is you are now reliant on America and its supply lines to restock replacement parts. Yes. There are certain components and missiles that are only made in America that go on those things. All the sensor systems are made in America. And so every like 3 or 4 years, you have to replace something on one of these planes or update something, and you have to buy it from America, and you have to be reliant on them. So they want to get off American reliance, so they're looking to replace those F-35 fleets with a new fleet. And the only option they really have is this company called Saab AB, which if you remember the Saab cars for a while, they made cars for a little bit.
Yeah,
Jerry
yeah.
Seinfeld
Yeah.
used to drive them in the show.
Yeah,
But
I remember that.
they're really, at their core, a military contractor.
Amazing, incredible.
So they make aircraft. And they make this...
So
this,
Seinfeld is working for a defense contractor.
Yeah, no, it was all subliminal messaging.
Sorry. Keep going, sorry.
So they make this plane called the Gripen, which I love. I love the Gripen. It's so cool. It's so amazing. And the thing about the Gripen is we're in Gen 5 of aircraft, so like the F-35 is a Gen 5. This will mean nothing to some of you, but it'll mean everything to others. In terms of like technology and performance.
Yeah.
The Gripen's a little older. It's been out for a while. It's like a in-between generations. It's like often referred to as a 4.5 gen fighter. And because that, it doesn't perform as well as the F-35. It has way less capability than the F-35, but it's like a third the price of an F-35.
I see.
And all the parts and things can be sourced locally from Sweden.
I got it.
So I think in their rush to replace all their F-35s, they're going to go for the cheaper alternative that's locally manufactured. They're going to go for the Gripen because also at the end of the day, the Europeans know that they just have these as a deterrent. They're never really going to use them.
Yeah.
If Germany is ever in a situation where it has to deploy air superiority, it's getting taken over. It's lost already. They're done. It's not like if you're at that point, you're fucked. So they don't even really need them to be that good. They just need to have them so that a bigger country can think, well, I'm going to lose X amount of fighters if I invade Germany because they have this many fighters. We're going to win, but is it worth it? And no.
Got it. Like the political chess match. Honestly,
Exactly.
that's a really brilliant idea.
And I told everyone 2 months ago to invest in Saab AB, and a lot of you were mean to me on my story. And I haven't checked in about a week, but as of a week ago, they were up 28% from the time I told you to invest. So.
In about a month or two.
Yeah, in about like a month and a half, yeah.
And in about a month and a half, the S&P is down 10%. So that's fucking killing it. So not financial advice, of course. We don't give that, but that's pretty brilliant.
So yeah, you got to just find out where the wars are happening, invest accordingly. And for everyone, because I keep getting these comments on my videos saying like, oh, you're a war profiteer, you're a horrible person. Why would you tell people to? Because by the way, everything on my channel is financial advice.
Yeah, go to Chris for
Go
that.
for me. Chris Warren is an LLC. I'm not even a real person. Go ahead, try to sue me. I will give financial advice. People are like, oh, that's horrible. You're a war profiteer. You're a bad person. You shouldn't do that. And they'll message me on iPhones. And that iPhone was made in a sweatshop in China by literal slaves. They have bars on the window and nets so that you can't kill yourself on your shift.
Yeah.
It was made with plastic, which is non-biodegradable, will be on the earth forever and polluted. All those factories spew out pollution because they're not in Western standards. Like, they don't have the EPA.
Yeah.
And then all the component parts, like the cobalt and lithium, all the stuff you need for the batteries and the electronics, those are all mined in the Congo by children soldiers like Ubegwe we mentioned earlier, who have a gun to their head and have to mine for like 50 cents a day. So don't come, you're profiteering off this system. Don't come at me just because I'm more honest about what I'm doing.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's fake outrage.
No.
And you can find better things to be mean about other than beautiful defense contractors.
Exactly. You know what? I think at the games, when they say please take a moment to like stand for the troops,
Yes.
we should please take a moment to stand for Raytheon, Halliburton, Lockheed Martin, Pratt and Whitney,
Yeah.
and I think
All of them, yeah.
yeah.
That's funny. I would say, so my next question then is almost like the inverse to all of this. So we know that then you can obviously profit off of, defense companies if war is happening. Trump is trying to end a lot of wars right now, and it looks like Russia and Ukraine, it might be coming to a close at some point. How do you think that's going to affect the global economy? And do you think, I don't say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like, what do you think is going to happen to the global economy?
So I don't know enough to know if these things are all directly correlated and if they are, to what extent they are, or if it's circumstantial. I will say it's pretty obvious to anyone paying attention that we are about to have like a massive global recession.
Yeah.
I would even argue that at least in the States, we might be looking at a Depression era level event, which is scary. And I don't fully understand the causes or whose fault it is, quote unquote, or what we do to prevent it. I just see in my daily life enough anecdotal evidence and then enough anecdotal evidence in watching the market and things like that I think it's pretty much unavoidable.
Can you give some examples for people? I agree with you, by the way.
I'll give an example, all right. So this right here, Zyn. Zyn used to be $5. For years, I would buy $5 in. It was cheaper than smoking.
Yeah.
Now it's only been like, what, 2-3 years since then?
Yes.
And I go to places now, this shit is like $8 at the cheapest places, and if you go to like a gas station off the highway, it's like $12 for Zyn. That's crazy inflation. Monsters, same thing. I used to go to a gas station before COVID that had a deal.
Yeah.
3 for $6. You get 3 for $6 Monsters, that's $2 a Monster.
Yeah.
Great deal. I would go in there every week. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Now you want to, first of all, none of the gas stations really have deals anymore. They don't have those, and it's like, after tax, it's like $3.85. It's almost $4. It's almost double the price.
Yes.
So this is in my daily life how I'm seeing crazy inflation. And I know you think this is a joke, but these are essentials for me. This is destroying my life.
I'm sorry to hear
I care
that.
about that. People are like, oh, the price of eggs. I don't eat eggs. I'm unhealthy. I eat the
pound Zyns instead.
The dollar menu doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's like $3.50
Right.
for a McDouble. That used to be $1.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think.
Yeah, and I read last week so Dollar General, their CEO, like in their earnings call, like their transcript, I was reading it. So their customers are getting affected. Dollar General has like a lot of like poor customers, basically, people without a lot of discretionary income, and they're feeling it. So it's like, it's going to be a very interesting time with like all of the job cuts in the government, tariffs. I was going to ask you, like, what do you think, and do you have an opinion on tariffs and how that's going to affect things? Like, do you think that political chess match is going to work?
So I do have an opinion.
Yeah.
I'm worried it's going to upset people, but I don't care.
Okay.
I don't really side with either party. So this is not me like shitting on Trump or Republicans. It's also not me defending him or I don't have an opinion either way. But when I look at it logically, from what I understand, and again, not an expert on this one. This isn't defense spending, so this is a little out of my area of expertise. But the way tariffs exist for a reason, and they can be useful, but you have to use them in certain settings. So the problem with what's happening right now, and I'm going to use a simple example, is basically Trump's putting tariffs on China, right? So,
yes. Yeah.
So like if you have Chinese steel coming in, and it's say like it's cheaper than American steel, it's like $100. Mm-hmm. So then say, we'll do round numbers, you put like 20% tariff, now it's $120, right? Yes. The way that's supposed to work is that's supposed to then make the American consumer go, oh, well, Chinese steel isn't cheap anymore, and that's why I used to buy it, it's because it's cheap. Now maybe the American steel is more competitive. Mm-hmm. So then it's okay, I'm going to buy American steel, and that stimulates American industry and the American economy, right? The problem with this strategy is, with a few exceptions, America does not produce anything anymore. We don't make anything anymore. And so a lot of the raw material that's and the few things we do make, we import the raw material. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is like there is no alternative. Yeah. So all that happens is I still have to buy the Chinese steel, and now I pay $120 for it instead of $100. And then it's like, the other argument is, okay, but we do this long enough, that's going to encourage America to start producing stuff here, right? That'll encourage American industry. And there is a strategy for that. None of that legwork has been done. There's no plan to introduce American infrastructure for manufacturing. There's no deals with companies to get them to build factories here. Yeah. There's none of that. So it's kind of this doing it to feel like we showed the Chinese. Yeah. But it's like, it's just costing the American consumer more. There's no local industry, really. I mean, some specific stuff there is, but really overall, there's not the equivalent American industry to take advantage of the tariffs. There's no plan to build that industry. Yeah. It's just, and also getting into a trade war with China. China is a fascist state. They have a one-party system with Xi Jinping, who is literally like a god emperor over there. Mm-hmm. In America, if people get upset over like 1/4 of stuff being bad, and we start rioting and stuff, China will just go 10 years. They don't care. They don't care if it tanks their economy. They have a 100-year plan. They'll go, we will take 10 years of our economy to tank because we can recover from 10 years much more easily than America can recover from 10 years of a tanked economy. Yeah. So it hurts both sides, but China doesn't care. They're working on a 100-year timeline. People over here are working on their term. They're working on a 4-year timeline. So I think it's very short-sighted. I think it is foolish, and it will cripple the American dollar.
Yeah, and that's like our last real advantage.
I mean,
and In our military.
Well, here's my whole frustration with the new regime, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Like the things people scream about, I really don't care. No
Okay.
offense. The thing I care about is America has dominated the world post-World War II because we did something very smart. We were the last people left on Earth with a functioning, massive, overpowered Navy. And so what we did is we told everyone, we will protect all the waterways of the world. We will ensure safe travel and safe trade throughout the entire world. People don't understand, you didn't used to be able to do that. Like, you couldn't send a ship through the Strait of Malacca without it getting attacked by pirates and sinking. So you just couldn't do trade there. The U.S. Navy changed all that back in, like, the 40s and 50s. We said, we're going to patrol the waters, we're going to have aircraft carriers everywhere, and we will ensure fair and safe and free trade, making a global economy in a meaningful way for the first time ever. And because of that, we basically, all these countries in Western Europe outsourced their defense to us because of that. They outsourced. We don't really need them. I mean, we have some military, but we don't really need a military because America's Navy will show up if we ever got attacked. America's Navy ensures global free trade, so no one would ever want to fuck that up.
Yeah.
No one would ever want to fuck up global trade because it's not worth it. And they know if they attack like a U.S. ally, America's going to have to divert and go do that, and they're also going to stop you from getting free trade because it works both ways. So it used to be like, okay, China, you want to start some shit? Well, we were protecting global free trade to you. Now we're cutting it off. Yeah. Now you're blockaded. You can't import anything till we say so, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. So everyone played nice. Okay. Everyone played nice. We had NATO formed from that to fight the Soviets. After the Soviets fell, we kept NATO basically to keep Europe as our colony. Because now they had they'd exported trade and navy to us, and then through NATO, they'd become completely enmeshed and dependent on not just U.S. power, but U.S. supplies. We made them all regulate their weapons to be things that we manufactured. So in order to get NATO funding, you had to basically buy American manufactured things. Smart. That's why everyone has F-35s. We were literally the only game in town. So it helped our economy. It kept Europe neutralized because they didn't have any military, so they couldn't stand up for themselves. They were completely reliant on us because they didn't have a military, kind of with France being the minor exception. And that was great for us. The EU was our colony. And when it came time to voting on things in the UN or signing trade deals or anything like that, we would go to them with soft power and be like, I mean, you can vote in your best interest, but it's kind of in your best interest for the guy with all the aircraft carriers and a military base in your capital to be happy. So maybe you vote our way. And they would do it 9 times out of 10. They would defer and they would do whatever we said. Yeah. We ruled the fucking planet. We were in charge of the world. And now we're pulling out of NATO, basically. We haven't offended, but we're like, oh, make them pay their fair share. Why do you want Germany to pay their fair share? We controlled, essentially, Europe's most powerful, influential economy through soft power. And over an ego, we're forcing them now to pay their fair share, so what, we spend $1 billion less a year? What did that buy us? And now they're independent. They have their own, they're building their own army, they don't like us, and they can tell us to go fuck ourselves when the next round of deals we wanted them to make happens. Yeah. It's stupid.
Short-sighted.
It's short-sighted. The last colonies we really have left are South Korea and Japan and Taiwan. Still basically do what we say. They're completely dependent on us because they're terrified of China. But we used to have that in Europe too, and we threw it away with both hands for no reason, and it is mind-boggling to me.
Well, that makes me, thank you. I mean, you're speaking about Taiwan, like that makes me think about, we're looking at Russia and Ukraine, but the next kind of global conflict that I think people have questions about is China and Taiwan. Like, have you seen anything? I've heard some rumblings. China has said some interesting things.
So,
what do you think is going to happen there?
It's hard to say. Okay, first of all, let's start with this. China wants Taiwan. They're willing to be patient, but they view it as a rogue state of China. They do not recognize its sovereignty. They do never address it as Taiwan. They call it like Chinese Taipei or something. They view it as like the equivalent of Long Island to New York. Okay. They're like, if they want to call themselves Long Island, go for it. You're still New York. You know.
Live in Massapequa.
Yeah, exactly. So the Chinese want it bad, and it is a source of sore pride, because Taiwan is such a middle finger to China, because essentially what happened is after World War II, there were two factions in China that worked together to push out the Japanese and liberate China. Chinese don't get enough credit. They basically liberated themselves on mainland. I mean, granted, the Americans and Australians were distracting the Japanese. They had to divert resources, but they did do all the hard fighting in China. There were two factions that were roughly equivalent. There was the Shanghai Shek forces, which were, they called themselves like the liberal democracy, but they were all like fascist, militaristic dictator guys. So they weren't necessarily good guys. And then you had the communists on the other side under Mao and his predecessors. And they fought a long, bloody war, and the communists won the war, and they pushed the Shanghai Shek loyalists to flee to Taipei at the time, which is now Taiwan, to flee to Taiwan and establish their government in exile there. So they view themselves basically like the French in Morocco during the Nazi occupation of France.
Got it. Okay.
And that's where it ended, because they didn't want a global instance. So they said, okay, we're going to secure power on land, and we're going to go get Taiwan eventually. Taiwan will never amount to anything. These guys are incompetent.
Okay.
And in a short amount of time, and this has kind of changed since the 2000s, but for the longest time, China was a backwater that could not get their shit together. They had famines. Communism was not working. They couldn't industrialize. They couldn't modernize. They didn't have a functioning military. They got absolutely embarrassed in the Korean War. Like, they were struggling. And meanwhile, less than 100 miles away, looking across the bay, you had Taiwan, which went from basically a desolate island, like there really wasn't much there, to Taipei being a modern mecca of technology with the semiconductors, this beautiful modern city with electricity. You had their economy and their GDP booming. It was such a better place to live. No one on mainland China wanted to admit it. But when they looked at Taiwan, they were like, that is such a nicer place to live. What the fuck? These guys were supposed to crash out after 5 years in isolation. But the West and America during the Cold War, pumped so much investment and money and technology and educating the Taiwanese and building them up to embarrass China. And that's why Taiwan is such a thorn in their side. Because we did the experiment of communist China versus liberal democracy, Western China. Same culture, same people, just two different places. And Taiwan was smaller than them. Taiwan had lost the war. It had less natural resources. It wasn't as strategically located. By every metric, they should have lost that battle of economy. And they bodied China. Like, even if you put population aside, if you just look at the numbers, Taiwan bodied China, which was like 30 times their size. And the Chinese have such a deep wound about that. They are so mad about that. They are so embarrassed about that, that they need to reclaim their dignity and honor by taking over Taiwan.
It's tough.
And so that's the thing most people don't realize about that situation. And every day Taiwan stands, it's another middle finger that, hey, the West won, we're better than you.
Wow. That's so a lot of ego or pride is involved in this equation then.
100%.
Yeah. Wow.
And the U.S., in my opinion, which I don't think unfortunately will happen, our empire is crumbling. Like I said, with the pulling out of NATO, we basically gave Africa to the Chinese under Obama. He basically pulled us out of Africa. The Chinese moved in and started investing in Africa and doing all the shit we used to do there. So now all the natural resources in Africa flow to China because they have influence. That's their sphere of influence. It used to be ours. The last holdout we had was West Africa, was under the French sphere of influence, who even though they talk a lot of shit about us publicly, we kind of worked together the whole time. And Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso did a coup and kicked them out. And the French are such pussies, they didn't even send in the French Foreign Legion to put a stop to it. They just walked out without any military conflict and go, I guess even though our entire economy is based off colonial gold mining, we're going to be the bigger person and say colonialism's bad, so we're going to pull out. And it's like, all right, well, now your economy's crashed. So great job, France. And guess who's moving in there? The Chinese again. So the Chinese have taken over all these third world countries as the new power player and the new influencer. They're all learning Mandarin. They're all talking to China. They're all taking on Chinese investments. And what China will do that's very smart is they'll go to, like, say, Angola. It was one of the first places they did this. And Angola has a lot of natural resources, but with oil, they have no way, they don't have the infrastructure or the whatever you want to call it to make use of this.
Okay.
The local talent or whatever. So the Chinese go, great, dude, we're going to build you an oil refinery, and we're going to build you a dock. We're going to give you a loan to basically pay us to do it.
Okay.
So we're going to give you a loan, and then we're going to send Chinese contractors that you pay that loan to build all this infrastructure for you. And then 10 years comes up, and Angola, of course, can never pay this back.
Right.
They can never pay this back. It's an insane loan with insane interest rates, and they default on the loan. And China goes, Angola, dude, we're friends. No, it's okay. You tried your best. No worries. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to take ownership of the oil refinery, and we're going to take ownership of the dock, and we'll call it even.
Oh, my God.
And Angola goes, oh, wow, thanks. That's so kind of you. And China literally just stole all of Angola's oil in that one move.
Wow.
And that's the shit we used to do that they now do, and we've pulled out. So they own all of Africa.
Wow.
The Taiwanese are going to have a bad time. I'm a believer that we should, as Americans, put boots on the ground. I'm willing to lose American lives in Taiwan.
Wow. That's a strong statement.
Like I said, we pulled out of Africa. We've pulled out of Europe. We're pulling out of Europe essentially in terms of our sphere of influence with this whole NATO debacle. And who knows how bad it is or how much it's fear-mongering. Taiwan, Asia is our last theater where we are strong. The Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea look to us and ask us, what do we do? And they fall in line. They follow all our doctrine. They vote with us on everything. They are essentially colonies. They are our boys. And if we allow China to take over Taiwan, that sends a message to the rest of our guys out there, hey, you might want to start looking for new management because we're not going to come defend you.
Yeah.
So they're going to stop fucking with us because the whole thing is like we kind of guarantee their sovereignty. So they're going to go, oh, fuck that. We're going to start making new deals and cut America out because they're not going to come defend us. The second thing is we made a sovereign promise to defend Taiwan's sovereignty. If we do not show up to meet that promise in full force, no one in the world trusts us anymore. The American promise means nothing. I mean, the whole original reason is I was worried what is happening in Europe right now would happen if we didn't. But in the last 3 months, I guess that doesn't matter anyway because Europe doesn't trust us anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also the clear handing over of the torch to China as the new world superpower. If they come into our backyard, take over our ally, and we don't lift a finger, it is us handing over the torch going, China, you've bested us. You are now the global superpower. You will soon become the global hegemony on culture. And this is us accepting that. We're not even going to lift a finger to stop it. So I am willing, because I'm such a patriot, we have to send everything. I don't care if we lose 200,000 lives. I don't care if we have to launch a nuke. I don't care if we lose the SS Truman, our flagship. Not one step back in Taiwan. Not one, because it's our last final stand of America as the global superpower. Everything is crumbling around us. We have lost so much. Taiwan is the last symbol of America being dominant in the world. If China takes that from us, it is us accepting becoming a second-rate country with no influence. And we're going to turn into a third world country. It's going to be pathetic.
Interesting.
And I don't want that. I'll enlist. I'll go fight in Taiwan.
You'll go fight in Taiwan.
I'll go fucking Taiwan.
You heard it here first.
And I'm pissed at the Taiwanese because they have no fight in them. They're not doing what you should do if you want to get ready for a war with China. They're
not prepping.
And I'm sorry, I'm ranting here. Cut me off at any point. I get passionate about this.
I was going to say it's interesting that it kind of aligns with Taiwan Semiconductor. They just made a $100 billion investment in America where they said, hey, we're going to help build plants for semiconductors in America. So this kind of tracks with, they're like, okay, we're going to scratch your back if you scratch ours later.
Nah.
And that only happened a month or two ago when Trump got elected pretty much.
Well, my problem with the Taiwanese is they're preparing for symmetrical traditional warfare, and they have to know that they're so outclassed and outnumbered by the Chinese. There's no, they're buying jets and tanks. Don't do that. The Chinese have so much more jets and tanks. All yours, no matter how many you buy, they'll all be destroyed in the first week of the war. There's no reason to do that. That is stupid. That is a show of force that means nothing. They should be mining everything. Sea mines, land mines. They should be getting as much SAM sites as they can, anti-aircraft,
Yeah.
And their goal, and they should be digging tunnel systems to get ready to fight like Vietnam style, to hold out, let the Chinese advance, then pop out behind them, hit and run tactics. Like, you are not going to win a conventional war. You have to go full asymmetrical war. You have to fight essentially like the Taliban if you want to win this. But all their investments are in traditional warfare, which they can't win. So I don't have confidence that the Taiwanese are ready to fight to the last man. I think push comes to shove, they're going to surrender.
Interesting. Okay.
But the goal should be to hold out. Hold out for like 2 weeks. Give it your all. Hold out for 2 weeks. And then let the American sphere of influence come to defend you. Hold out just long enough for the Japanese, Koreans, and Philippines and America to rally and come to your defense with a carrier fleet.
Hold out, Taiwan.
Hold out,
You
Taiwan.
can do it.
You can do it, dude. I'll be there. I'll be there on the SS Truman saying, launch the nuke, blow up Shanghai.
It is sad because it feels like America is kind of isolating itself from the whole world. That's what it is starting to feel like, and all we have is assets. We have money, and that's kind of what it feels like. And I guess we make F-35s here, but
No one buys them anymore.
no one buys them, I guess. But it feels like, does it feel like we're becoming very isolationist, and that's kind of the policy that's happening?
I do feel like that's happening at the moment. And it's very silly to me. I don't know, because if you look at... Everyone seems to want to return to this idealized version of the past that never truly existed. They want to return to this time when America was on the edge of the world looking at it and not really getting involved. And they view like World War I and then even more World War II as pulling us into world conflicts that didn't concern us, that like Americans shouldn't have died for, that we shouldn't have been bothered with. But you have to remember first of all, it wasn't great over there before those things. Like before World War I, we were like a second-rate economy. We were not like the most wealthy country on earth. We gained all that wealth by what I talked about earlier with the Navy and stuff, by going in and getting involved in the global economy and dominating it. That's how we became so, like, we won't be rich if we isolate because our wealth comes from global trade, global economy, all that. And also, that was back when we had land to expand to. Like, the reason it worked so well is because, like, once you had gotten all the economic value you could out of, like, Ohio, you'd just get some settlers and they'd, okay, let's go to Montana. Because there was all this open land and you could just keep going to the next place, pushing this massive population influx over that way to then print money, essentially, by putting them on whatever natural resource or thing you needed them to do out there. And then once the frontier closed, we had nowhere to go and our economy started stagnating. And lo and behold, World War I happened, and it was actually like a huge blessing in a roundabout way.
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah, now everyone is somewhat reliant on the dollar, but everyone's trying to get off of it.
We should have nuked everyone in BRICS the second they made that. I swear to God, the fact we let that shit fly.
Yeah.
We let Brazil, which is like right below us, decide to get away from the American dollar and start trading openly with the Chinese. Dude, we should have killed their next 5 presidents.
Bolsonaro.
We should have killed their next 5 presidents. Like the first one for signing it, and then the next 4 just to let them know we can do it again. And then the 6th guy would behave. That's what we should have done.
So then I guess my question, you know, do you think AI can actually do anything to fucking help us? Like, does it seem like it's a fucking time sink, waste of resources? It is lauded as like the next great thing right now. Where does this fall in the drop of everything we've just talked about?
What we call AI is not AI. That would be, and I'm not a computer guy, I'm not a computer scientist, I'm not a programmer, this is just my understanding. When you look at it logically, right, we call it AI. But all AI is we've outsourced calculations and we've outsourced basically search engine optimization through AI. Because all AI does is you give it basically the sum total of the knowledge on the internet. Right? I mean, that's an exaggeration, but whatever you fed it. And then you ask it to make something. You know, you're like, make the Sad Money podcast. Write an episode of the Sad Money podcast, right? So AI has every episode ever of the Sad Money podcast and all its additional content, all its clips. It'll run through that, algorithmically figure out what the key core tenets of it are, and it'll spit you out basically a copied and pasted version that looks similar to things that have come before that have called themselves Sad Money podcast. The problem is, why I don't think it's actually intelligence is it can't create anything on its own. It cannot come up with any new ideas. It can just reformulate and regurgitate ideas we have given it. It cannot have a unique individual thought, and therefore I don't think it's actual intelligence. We've just super optimized calculations, essentially. And algorithms, algorithmic learning and algorithms, and that's all useful, but I don't think it's going to be this make world peace, solve all the world problems, because we haven't done any of that, and all it has to go on is things we've done and said. So if we didn't come up with the solution, it's not going to be able to. It'll just spit out different versions of things people have said might be the solution in the past.
Yeah. I like the way you put it. That's like, I think also, I agree with all of that, and I think money needed someplace to go in 2022. Like the NASDAQ and tech was not doing well, and they needed to form a narrative. Like the tech, Silicon Valley needed to form a narrative, the VCs needed to form a narrative, and they're like, we can throw all the money, we need to put money somewhere. So they're like, this is the next frontier. But I don't know.
I think the best thing we can do for the economy, and President, if you're listening to me, all right, hear me out.
President Trump, we know you listen.
President Trump, I know you're a big fan. Just blow up the Three Gorges Dam. I know it'll cause an international incident. I know it'll be a problem. Get the CIA to hire some terrorist group or create some terrorist group to blow up the Three Gorges Dam. If we do that, we can secure American power for the next 20 years.
I like that. That's 4D chess right there.
Yeah, because it's a dam in China.
Okay.
That they basically walled up this massive river. It produces something like 15% of China's electricity, but that's not the thing we want to get rid of it for. So that's good. We knock out part of their power grid. But more importantly, where it used to flow, like if you blew it up where it would flood, about 100 million people live there, and it's some of the most arable, fertile land in China. China is already a net food importer, meaning they consume more food than they produce. They have to import it from foreign sources. That region produces something crazy like 30% of China's food.
Okay.
So if you blow up the Three Gorges Dam, you destroy their best farmland, getting rid of 30% of their food production. You've killed 100 million Chinese, which is a huge hit to their labor. I believe Shanxing? All the names sound the same. I apologize. Two of the biggest manufacturers of Chinese steel are in that valley, two of their cities that produce most of the steel, and there's a military... some sort of military plane that they make there as well. You take basically out all Chinese steel manufacturing. You take out 30% of its food production. You take out, almost 10% of its population. You take out 15% of its power grid, all in one move.
Sheesh. Yeah.
And then China has to use all its GDP to try to import food at that point as its population starts starving, and they're panicking.
Yeah.
And that's how we keep them distracted for like 10, 20 years.
Interesting.
And that's how we keep the global super... I mean, granted, 100 million civilians mostly will die, but they don't have U.S. passports, so it doesn't really count.
It doesn't count.
Doesn't even
count. I don't, If you're running a country, you don't really think about those things.
I want my leader to be a sociopath.
Yeah.
I want my leader to do calculus in his head of, if I evaporate this third world country of 20 million people off the map, will it lower gas prices for Americans by 10 cents a gallon? And if the answer is yes, he just does it.
I think Trump's biggest weakness is he wants to be liked. He wants to be liked by everybody. And that's a pretty big weakness if you're running a country.
He also does everything based on the vibes.
Yeah.
So, like, the tariffs, like we said, aren't really going to work. It's not even going to do what he thinks they're going to do. It's just the vibe that we need to show Europe. We need to teach Europe a lesson.
Yeah.
It's just like it feels good in the moment. And I think that has led to a lot of bad policy.
We brought back bullying. We're bullying again.
I think we should bring back bullying. Hold on. That's a separate issue.
Okay.
I think we should bring back bullying. I was bullied severely as a child. And I was so fucking weird. And it's like, I don't think, if I hadn't been bullied, I don't think I ever would have gotten laid in my life. I owe my 8th grade bully a lot. That I got to lose my virginity because he course-corrected some of my weirdo behavior that was scaring the host.
Yes.
So thank you to my 8th grade bully.
I understand. I would have never lost my weight. I would have been overweight. I would have never started on the varsity soccer team. I had to throw that in there. No, I would have never lost the weight if I didn't get bullied by my friends.
See, so you had to get bullied a little bit. Bullying is good. Bullying is a social control of when we used to live in tribes. that when someone was doing some shit that was dangerous for the group,
Yeah.
you went, hey, cut that the fuck out. You're going to get us all killed, or like the lion's going to hear you.
Yes.
So you'd socially ostracize them till they course corrected to behavior that was concurrent with the group's needs.
Yeah.
And that still exists now. It's a natural process. Everyone should get bullied a little bit at some point in their life.
Yeah, I fully agree. Maybe, I don't know if there's a male, female, different experience, but I definitely agree with you.
Oh, women are some of the meanest bullies.
Yeah.
I've talked to my female friends, dude, the things you guys do to each other, that might be over the line. I'm gonna be real. Female bullying might need to rein that in, dude. You guys get mean.
Yeah, yeah. Now, maybe to wrap up, we were talking a little bit before, but I know you just hit 3 years sober. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would you like to talk about your journey to sobriety at all? Like, people might relate to that. Anything you've learned from the path of getting sober that could help people?
Yeah, so I guess I could go on all day about that, but I'll keep it very short. Basically, I was pretty functional, what we'd call a high-functioning alcoholic and drug addict. So I would drink a lot, obviously. I would also do a lot of cocaine and Xanax, and also a lot of weed. And people say, oh, you can't get addicted to weed, but I was like waking up in the middle of the night to smoke and go back to bed. It was not good. But I was doing all that at the same time by the end, right? They all built in phases. By the end, I was doing all of it, but I was pretty successful in my career. I wasn't doing comedy yet, so I thought whatever. And I was getting away with it, and I thought life was fine, and I didn't have a problem because only homeless people. You can only be a drug addict or alcoholic if you're like homeless. If you're, obviously that's what real addiction looks like. That was my justification to myself. But eventually, all the cards kind of fell at once. I lost my job, obviously for drug and alcohol reasons. Through there, I became pretty financially destitute after that. I had really isolated myself from a lot of people in my life that I'd cared about through my bad behavior and neglect while being an addict. And it just came to a point where I was like 110 pounds. Just for reference, I'm like 170, 175 right now. I was 110 pounds, so I was real skinny.
Dang.
My health was failing. I was like throwing up every morning. I would cough up blood sometimes. And I would shake a lot. It was bad. It was really bad. I felt completely alone, and I was getting ready to off myself because I thought there was no point anymore. We had run its course. It's never going to get any better. At this point, I'd like everyone to be better if I'm gone. And by the grace of God, someone came to me and asked me if I wanted to come with them to a meeting. And at this point, I was doing comedy. He was another comedian, and he was one of the last people that was still nice to me. And nothing against anyone that wasn't nice to me. I understand. I was a menace. I did that to myself. But he was one of the last guys that put up with my bullshit of me being crazy and showing up to shows drunk. And he was always like, hey, man, like, it's okay. He's always just, wasn't even anything crazy. He was just nice to me still. And that meant a lot at the time. So I said, okay, well, I owe him at least to go to this. He's one of the last people that still takes my calls. I'll go. And I went, and everyone described basically their bottoms, like their worst parts of life. And it was all this stuff. And I realized that was all my current life, and that was all very normal to me. It did not conceptually occur to me that everyone did not live like that every day. And I lost my mind. I started crying, and I decided I was going to go to AA from then on out and try to get help. And I went, and I made it 3 years, and my life is by no means perfect, but it is so much better than I ever could have imagined it to be. I have so many people in my life that are so wonderful and kind to me. A lot of those relationships I had ruined did come back in new, way more meaningful ways. And so if you're out there and you're struggling and you feel like you are somehow unsavable, or you're horrible, or you deserve this, or you don't see the point, or you don't think it's ever going to get any better, or you fucked up your life too much, any of these, I promise you I was right there. Like, I spent time in the psych ward over it. Like, we were really living that life. And I never thought anything would get better, and I only tried to get better to prove to everyone I couldn't, so then I could kill myself and no one could be mad at me. That was as fucked up, that was my logic at the time.
Yeah.
But things did get better. And so if you're struggling, go to an AA meeting, be honest with them, and the men and women in there will show you a love, kindness, support, and understanding that I at least had never experienced in my life before. They will help you get better if you do what they say, and stick with it, because I won't even say you owe it to yourself. You owe it to the world. You owe it to the world for the way you behaved before, that you were a burden and you were a menace and you were, let's be honest, a bad person. I don't do that shit where it's like, oh, you had a disease. No, you were a piece of shit. You owe it to the world to get better so you can do good things to outweigh the harm you did going forward. You have a debt to the universe that you need to pay back. So you owe it to everyone to get sober and pay back that debt.
Yeah. Dang. Thank you, man. That's really beautiful. Also, congratulations for
Thank you, man.
going through that, and you're doing amazing now. Yeah, you're doing awesome.
I'm here with you, dude. Who's got it better than me?
Yeah, I mean, anything else? Yeah, anything you want to leave the viewers with?
I'll hit you with the quote.
Yeah.
I feel like those are good. All right. So this is my favorite quote. This is what I think of every day when I wake up and every night when I go to bed. And I think if you live by this, it can help you in life, which is every man is guilty of all the good things he did not do. And that's by Dostoevsky.
That's a good quote.
So just remember, not being a piece of shit is not the same thing as being a good person. You have to go above and beyond.
Damn.
And a lot of you are coasting by on, well, like, I'm not a piece of shit, so I'm fine. Neutral, not enough. We got to get you to good.
Got to put the work in.
Step it in and go help somebody today. Go help somebody today. It'll make you feel better. No matter what mood you're in, if you go help someone today, you will feel so much better about life and yourself. It's actually a really selfish thing I do when I try to help people, because I know it's going to get me fucking like emotionally, spiritually high. So go try it. It's the best high there is when you can't do cocaine anymore.
Well, you helped us. You helped the viewers by being on this. So I wanted to say thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Sad Money out. Oh, and check Chris out at Chris Warren Comedy. We're going to tag him in everything so you can see it anyways. But Chris Warren Comedy.